Ooh, we're live. Let's go. You guys know the drill. We're going to come on in. I'm going to make sure that my audio is good. The 30th episode. Oh, I have push notifications. The 30th episode of Missouri Tigers Live. That's crazy to me. Anyway, welcome to Missouri Tigers Live, episode 30. Oh my God, guys, we're almost into July. Like, we definitely have hit the point where, like, I'm ready for this sport, this stupid sport that we all love to come back. And I say stupid affectionately. Anyway, this is Missouri Tigers Live. I am Zach Ramelius, of course, here to talk about the old Missouri Tigers as they've had an interesting week. We're going to talk a little bit about recruiting. We did have a few commitments this past week, so the Mizzou recruiting class is up to 8. We're going to break down UMass and Louisiana in the same video, just because I don't see why not. UMass, there's not really a lot to talk about. They have a new coach, but whatever. Anyway. And then we'll cut it off. We'll get into July, and I'll send everybody home for the 4th of July weekend. So, anyway, you can listen, of course, to us on any college football or sorry, let me focus. You can listen to us on any platform, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, wherever you get your podcast content. You can find us here at the Voice of College Football. Thank you to Mark Rogers. You can find Mark at the Voice of College Football. Mark Rogers at the Voice of College Football on Twitter. I'm not calling it the other thing. He super brilliant guy. If you don't know that by now, obviously, I think if you know me, you know Mark. So. Thank you guys all for being here, but let's get into the show. I've got dinner cooking, and it'll be ready in about an hour, so I'm ready to go. Talk a little Cruton. So yesterday, Brandon Anderson, a composite 3-star or a 247 3-star recruit from Kennesaw, Georgia, has committed to Missouri. He commits to Missouri over Tennessee. According to Sean Williams at PowerMizzou.com, he told Go Vols 247 that coming out of the June 20th visit, the Vols were the favorite. Mizzou got him. They picked him up, and that's huge. Like, offensive line, I say this every show, and I'm going to keep repeating it until my point's made across. Everyone wants to talk about transfer portal. Oh, you don't need a high school recruit. You have the transfer portal. No. In certain spots, yes. There will always be running backs. There will always be wide receivers. There will always be quarterbacks. Probably. There will always be corners and safeties. Maybe not stars, but at least depth. And I think Mizzou has a good depth one in the Hall kid from Washington State. But where you're going to have a hard time is offensive line and defensive line. So Mizzou gets Anderson. They get Khalif Canty from Michigan. So that's 2 offensive line commits in the last week. They're both interior offensive linemen. They're not tackles. So guys like Jack Lang and some of these other kids that Mizzou's brought in are really going to need to develop. But that's a good problem to have for Mizzou because they did whiff on Evan Goodwin. He was their biggest target after obviously they whiffed on some other guys. And he committed to SMU, which is shocking, to say the least. I thought Mizzou really had a strong push there. SMU's a good program. They're not in the SEC. They did do it right though. If you're gonna give SMU credit, they did, and they made the playoff last year, so they have a good program. They built up their facilities, they built up their NIL base, and then they made the jump into the ACC. They didn't do it in reverse, where you make the jump and then you're like, okay, now we got to catch up and get to everybody else's level. They did it the right way that you should do it if you're going to move up a level. And look, they got a really talented kid from 4-star offensive lineman. That sucks, but hey, game is game, man. The game is the game. So you're going to see them, Braylon Ellison, he's also an interior lineman. He's going to commit tomorrow, probably to Mizzou. He's an interesting case. He's a 3-star. Mizzou's really his only Power 5 offer. Looking at his tweet from earlier, like, hey, this is, I'm committing soon. His other offers are Navy, like Missouri State, Washington State, Miami of Ohio, Lindenwood, Coastal Carolina, Mizzou, Oregon State, James Madison. And he's a legacy, so Mizzou will probably win that one there. Other commitment dates: July 2nd, J.J. Bush, a 4-star linebacker who Mizzou's been all over out of Alabama. Tony Forney's committing on July 4th. July 5th, Keatron Harris, July 7th for Jaden McGregory and Jawel Kambe, July 9th. Those guys, you need to start, Mizzou's up to 8 commits. They also got a commit from Devion Hill Lomax, a 3-star wide receiver. He picked them over Illinois, Iowa State, and Kentucky. He's the second one wide receiver to go with Jabari Brady. Look, 8 commits this last week was entertaining. They have a lot of guys on deck, but recruiting does matter. And right now, Mizzou's class is 76th in the country at the last I checked. Let me look one more time on 247. I just like using 247. Power Mizzou's great. Let's see. They have 8 commits. Now, Mizzou's not going to finish this low, and there's other programs that are struggling around this. Like Auburn is at 81st. Like, that's not going to continue. But yeah, nope, 78th with 8 commits. Not good enough. And I trust Eli enough to, he's a good recruiter. That's not going to continue. But this recruiting cycle is not going Mizzou's way. They finished 16th last year. This one is just not going their way. They whiffed on some bigger guys. I think they put a lot of mileage into Jackson Cantwell. I apologize. He finished 20th on 247, and they whiffed, and he didn't even have him in there. He weren't even a finalist. The portal's great, guys, but when it comes to your trenches, especially in this conference, you need to recruit and you need to develop. So Mizzou did get a couple linemen that are talented. They're probably going to pick up a third one tomorrow. It's going to be up to those guys to really prove that they can play at this level, because I just don't trust it in the portal. So you need to keep getting better. We'll see what happens recruiting wise moving forward. There are a lot of guys coming in next week. We're going to have a lot more news. And then we're also going to hop into the SEC with South Carolina. And then I haven't picked which team from the SEC I want to preview with South Carolina, because I'm going to do like an SEC game and a game Mizzou, that team Mizzou isn't going to play. And then as we ride down, we'll do like predictions and stuff. Like I'm going to do game by game predictions for those teams. So not game by game, but kind of like record predictions. That's my recruiting update. They did get a couple commits. Probably going to get another one tomorrow. It's always fun. But I would like to see some real momentum on the recruiting trail and kind of elevate their class, because right now it's pretty bare bones. Please like and subscribe. If you guys are here, share with your friends, talk to your friends. Guys, Mizzou football, we'll see where they do. We'll see where they end up as the season goes on. But things are looking up. If you read Athlon Sports College Football Preview, they totally had the right. The quote was correct. Eli's got them in a really good spot. They can be a consistent winner. Maybe not at the top level, but they've kind of found a niche in the SEC where they're dangerous. They're not a team you want to play. They've lost one home game in the last 2 years. That was to the Heisman Trophy winner. Super fun team. We'll see how they do this year. You can follow me on Twitter at PsychoZ50. And yeah, let's get into. We'll start with UMass. I know it's the game later in the season, but we'll start with UMass. There's not a lot to talk about. They brought in a kid transfer from Yale to play quarterback. The big thing for UMass is they are finally back in a conference. They have rejoined the MAC, which is good. It's always probably, unless you're Notre Dame, it's always a little, or BYU, like your team like that. It's a little easier to find your footing in an actual conference. They brought in a new coach. It's a program that, and Mizzou went there last year, so I don't know what they were doing there. But it's a team that just has never, ever sniffed success. They just haven't. They've never won four games since jumping up to Division I. They're 7-41 since 2021. Joe Harrismike, I hope I'm saying that name right. He's a kid, there are people that are really excited about him. Grant Jordan is the quarterback transfer from Yale. He's going to battle AJ Hairston. They lose 3 starters on the offensive line. Harrismike's a defensive guy. They're going to bring in a lot of transfers. He's really committed to building up the trenches. Which they don't have the bodies where that's going to matter this year. He was the defensive coordinator at Rutgers before this. I should probably mention that. And he did a great job. So for UMass, there's some programs where there's a template for success. Even when they're struggling, there's a template. Like Rutgers right now, Greg Schiano. Maybe it's just the template is Greg Schiano. Oregon State, there's a template, like the programs that have struggled in the past and then have found more recent success. UMass, there's no template because they've never been good. Being in a conference always helps. It just does. Being in a conference is important. Their defense should take a step forward. Last year, it was pretty porous. There's just not a lot to talk about with UMass. They're a program that exists, and if you look at their schedule for the 2025 season outside of the Mizzou game, obviously, you have a hard time seeing 3, 4, even 2, 3, 4 wins. Let me re-pull back up their football schedule. So they have last year, okay, if you look at UMass last year, they went 2-10 with Don Brown, which was a weird hire. They played Eastern Michigan. They got rocked. They went to Toledo, got rocked. They played Buffalo. They got rocked. They did beat Central Connecticut State by 4. Went to Miami of Ohio, lost by 3. Lost by 2 touchdowns at Northern Illinois. Mizzou rocked them. They rocked Wagner. Got rocked by Mississippi State. Rocked by Georgia. Played UConn pretty tough and lost to Liberty by 1. That would have been a funny game. They beat Liberty. This year, I'm not going to pretend I know everything going on in the MAC. But if I look at their schedule, okay, can they beat Temple? Sure. Yeah, probably. They can beat Bryant. So that's a 2-0 start. But then they go to Iowa. They got a bye week. They're going to go to Missouri. They're going to lose both those games. Western Michigan, they're not going to beat Western Michigan. They go to Kent State, another program that's just kind of helpless. Sean Lewis is now the coach at San Diego State, and usually it takes a couple years, or it takes a year for Sean Lewis to get going after he was fired unceremoniously at Colorado for Pat Shermer, which sure, they won 9 games. It kind of worked. What he did at UMass or at Kent State should be put him in the College Football Hall of Fame. I know Dino Babers had some success there too, but not Dino Babers. Sorry. God, who was the guy? Not Dino Babers. That was dumb of me to say. I'm thinking of, oh God, I feel horrible. Who was that coach? He went to Purdue. They had Dree Archer. Like it's kind of fun. Like I remember they went to LSU and I was like, oh, Daryl Hazel. There we go. Can't believe I couldn't remember that. That's going to kill me. That's so embarrassing. But Kent State is not a good program, but so they can win that game. They're going to play Buffalo. They're not going to beat Buffalo. I really like what they did last year. They got better. Central Michigan probably not winning that game. At Akron, maybe, but Joe Moorhead, we'll see. NIU, obviously not. Ohio, no. Bowling Green, no. And then so many games. Did I say like 5 games? And you have to win those games, So, and even like a Bryant's not an automatic for this program. So, is there a chance to get to 4 wins? Yeah, probably. But are they going to do it? I don't know. They don't have the bodies. It's a lot of transfers. There's just not a lot to talk about with UMass. Mizzou did play them last year. They went to Amherst for some reason. I remember I have the stats pulled up. I was trying to find my tweets from that game. Unfortunately, because of how I tweet about games when they're live, it's hard for me to find them. But I do remember being supremely frustrated with Mizzou's offensive performance. They 461 yards, great. But they were just not like Brady Cook, 415 for 19 for 219 yards. But 63 yards of those came on a Josh Manning touchdown. You take away those 63 yards, you're at 13 of 18 for 157 yards against UMass. Like the ability to push the ball down the field still was not there last year, even against UMass. And that's something we need to see this year. The downfield passing game, like this, and I know what the final score was, but they were up 24-3 at half. They kind of did take care of business. Obviously, you're not going to go all out against UMass. It's just not going to happen. But man, like I would like to just see more consistency. If I remember correctly, the run game in the first half was like averaging like 3 yards a carry, which is just complete garbage. And annoying and frustrating. But hey, win's a win. And I'm trying to remember. I think Mizzou right after had to play Bama, so they played Auburn at home after that. So yeah, you had a big homecoming game. Like I understand, kind of sleepwalking through it, but man, I just remember being really frustrated by that game because there just was not enough big plays. This year, that's what you need to see is that you need to see big plays. We need to see offense. We need to see. I don't want Bo Prabula, kind of like the Central Arkansas game. I don't want Bo Prabula to run the ball a lot because why? You should win this game 52-3, and we'll see what happens. They did win it 45-3 last year. Offensively, the UMass quarterback whose name I'm not trying to pronounce, 12-22, 132 yards and a pick. He's not there this year. They did a really good job on the running back, 9 carries, 33 yards, CJ Hester. They really only had one explosive play. Jacoby Keeney-James did have 6 catches for 130 yards, but he's gone. So not a ton to talk about with UMass. I mean, they're kind of they're just a program that like they've got some things to figure out. Now you have a new coach. There's always excitement with a new coach. You're in the MAC. You're back in a conference. So there's excitement there, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Missouri Tigers, Voice of College Football, Missouri Tigers Live. I am Zach Armilius. Like and subscribe. Come on, guys. Like, we're breaking down UMass here the best we can with the information we have in front of me. So that's UMass. Now we'll talk more about the interesting team, which is the Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns. The late Ragin' Cajuns are coming off a 10-4 season, 7-1 in the Sun Belt. really a breakthrough for Michael Desormeaux. That's a Cajun name. A breakthrough season. They beat Wake Forest. They won against App State. They got to the conference championship game. They lost 2 games. Before the conference championship game, they lost to Tulane. Tulane was a really good team. And obviously everyone's got all the respect in the world for John Summerall. And they lost to South Alabama. They lost 2 one-possession games to the 43rd ranked team. And then South Alabama was a weird, 61st ranked team. They did have a post-game win expectancy of only 10%, so they did not play well. But, hey, man, how many bowl teams did they beat, though? Coastal Carolina went to a bowl, was bowl eligible. Texas State went to a bowl. Arkansas State went to a bowl. South Alabama, they lost. But the season really ended in disappointing fashion because they went and played Marshall in the Sun Belt Championship game and got crushed. Then they played TCU in a bowl game and got absolutely, crushed. Their quarterback got hurt, and it was just over. So this year, the coach, he enters the year. He's 23-18. He went to school at Louisiana Lafayette. He played quarterback for the Cajuns. He kind of played all over the place. He was a high school coach and then coach at Louisiana. He got the coordinator job when Billy Napier left. And then this is a good program. When Billy Napier got there, they became a pretty good pro. You don't just get the Florida job because you stink. And Billy Napier was up for a lot of jobs. In SP Plus, or they got up pretty high starting around 2019. So before last year, 6-7, 6-7, 10-4. In Napier's last year, they went 13. Last couple of years, 13-1. So, like the guy at Central Arkansas, their head coach has kind of spent his entire life in Louisiana football. We'll see what happens if he has more success, if another job comes calling, if he leaves, because this man just screams Raging Cajuns. Not a lot of changes on the offensive side of the ball. They bring back Tim. I almost said Tim Legler. That's not him. Jim Salgado is back as the defensive coordinator. They have 2 offensive line coaches, which is really funny as I look at their coaching roster, which is great. But getting into the team, they lost a lot. When you're a team like Louisiana and you have the success they did, you're gonna lose a lot. They lost some guys to big schools. Draylon Washington, a running back, went to Alabama. Harvey Broussard was a wide receiver. He went to Houston. They lost a tight end to Texas Tech. They lost a linebacker to Houston. They lost a corner to Michigan, and they lost another corner to Louisville. That's just crazy. He was their 3rd string rusher and he went to Alabama, which I found weird, but Carmicah Glass, who you guys may remember, former Missouri Tiger, he went to Houston. So what they did bring in was the big name was Walker Howard. They did bring in Walker Howard, who played at Ole Miss. He played at LSU. He was a former big-time recruit. And anytime you get a player like that he never got an opportunity. He was stuck behind Jackson Dart, who was a top NFL draft pick, and at LSU he was trapped behind 2022 he was competing. 2022 he would have competed with Daniels, but he ended up being a Heisman winner and a top 5 pick, so you can't really blame him. But he has a ton of talent. Former highly rated recruit. Anytime you can bring a kid in like that, and it's not like, hey, he was a bust. Obviously he hasn't played, and he's a Louisiana kid. Was a 4-star prospect, top 100 kid. And it's not like he's been a bust. He was behind two good quarterbacks that both ended up being top draft picks. So we'll see what he looks like. But man, the talent's there. And if you're Louisiana, you have to be excited for what you got in him at quarterback because it's there. Like it is there. Recruiting wise, 81st in the country, top 4 finishes in the Sun Belt. Like, that's fine. Like when you're Louisiana, you're not really worried about high recruit classes. It's just about identifying talent. And then and see what happens. So last year the offense just did not play that well early on, except for the Tulane game. As you see in their first few games, they did have 40 against Grambling, 34 against Kennesaw State, but those got unranked, obviously, and then 118, 33 against Tulane. But they played a bunch of really crappy defenses. What am I talking about? Their offense was pretty good. But about halfway through the year, they switched it up, and they stopped really running the ball. And they just started throwing bombs away. They did lose their quarterback. They lost their two best quarterbacks, and they lost their top 4 targets. What's crazy is they do move at a really slow pace. They were 117th in pace last year. Keep the ball away from opposing defenses. Keep the ball away from opposing offenses, and then we'll see what they do at running back. Walker Howard, they bring back all their running backs. Bill Davis, 163 carries last year for 796 yards, 9 touchdowns. Zylan Perry, 112 carries for 695 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was a little more explosive. And they do Lunch Winfield is a great name, and just seeing a running back named Bill is kind of funny too. But they bring back their top 2 running backs, so we'll see. They should have, their running game should be better. Their wide receiving core, it just decimated. Their 5th most targeted receiver is their only real returner. They brought in Shelton Sampson from LSU, who's a big time player, but he has not proven anything at this level. There's really no expectation or idea of how good or bad the wide receiver core is going to be for Louisiana this year, but they have the quarterback to make it count. They returned their right tackle and their right guard and right tackle have played a lot of football. They had 12 starts last year. They lose their starter in center and both of their left side of their offensive line. The left side is where their runs were much more successful. Goodness gracious, almost like a 15-20% better success rate. They didn't portal any offensive linemen, which isn't unusual, but they do have 2 offensive line coaches. So they're hoping that guys like a guy named Bryant Williams, Caden Moreau, guys like that, and Cooper Fordham really take steps up for Louisiana. On defense, they weren't good last year, 78th in the country. Overall success rate, 124th, points per score. Like, it's just – they did not allow a lot of explosive plays, though. They were 3rd in explosive play rate. Yards per successful play allowed. So, they would give up successful plays. Teams would stay on schedule. But they wouldn't allow big plays. And because of their pace on offense, they only had their 5th in drives per game. Now, they are losing a lot of players on defense. But it's kind of like Batoon's defense, where they just kind of get in the way. They're not about making plays, and that needs to change this year. We've talked about that enough. Defensively, again, a lot of transfers. We'll see what happens. Trey Tomlinson and 7 pass break. Jeez, that's pretty good. We'll see what happens with the Raging Cajuns this year. The most interesting thing to talk about with this game, I'll get to a moment, is when it takes place. So if you do look at what Louisiana's schedule looks like, you have Rice, you have McNeese, you have Missouri, Eastern Michigan, Marshall, and then you get into your Sun Belt schedule. I wouldn't be quite shocked if they make another run. So preseason, their projected SP plus is 74th overall, is 74th. Middle of the pack in the entire country. As of right now, they'd be favored against Rice, obviously against McNeese, favored against Eastern Michigan, favored against Marshall, favored against Southern Miss, favored at Troy, favored at South Alabama. No, they won't be favored at South Alabama. Favored against Texas State, Arkansas State, Louisiana Monroe. There's another path for an 8, 9, 10 win season. And this is why that's important. If Mizzou is better than I think they will be, and a lot of people think they will be, preseason, they're 21st in SP plus from Bill Connolly. If they can creep up and all of a sudden you're on that borderline of the playoff, but you beat Louisiana, who, let's say they win 9, 10 games, and they're back in the Sun Belt title game, that just makes your non-conference look better. Even though no one's going to care if you beat a 9-3 Louisiana team. If you beat a 10-2 Louisiana team, that looks a lot better on your schedule. Mizzou should win this game, but this is where I get nervous. This is where I get really nervous. This is a well-coached team. This is a proud program that has won a lot of games in recent memory, from Billy Napier and now under the new administration. And they have a super talented quarterback who has not played, but has seen a lot of SEC football. And this is where I get nervous about this game. Not that I think Mizzou's going to lose, obviously, but where I think this could be in the third quarter and you're like, it's 17-14. What's going on? Or 14-10, and because of the pace they play at, and you're just like, what's going on here? The week before Louisiana, they play Kansas. The week after they play Louisiana, you have South Carolina coming to town in what may be the biggest game of the year. Because that South Carolina game, we'll get into the South Carolina game next week. That might be the biggest game of the year. Because you win that game, you can prop that forward for an 8-9 win season. You lose that game, 7 wins is definitely on the table. Even 6 wins is definitely on the table. It's a huge game. It's the biggest game of the year to me. Because it's kind of like the Kansas State game a couple years ago. Mizzou won that game and it propelled them to a great season. I think the same thing for South Carolina, but we're not talking about South Carolina. So I think a lot of, especially with how that game ended last year and Beamer celebrating the way he did, which he should, that was a huge win for them. It almost got them into the playoff. They finally beat Mizzou. Beamer had never beaten Eli. It was a huge win for that program. I'm not saying that as a shot against South Carolina. It was. And the way it happened, it was dramatic. It was the best. It might have been the best game Mizzou played all year, at least offensively. And I know that the numbers they put up against Mississippi State and UMass, whatever, they played really well because that was a really good South Carolina defense. And South Carolina returns a quarter, whatever. We're not breaking down South Carolina. And in between those two huge games, in comes Louisiana, who's going to play really, really hard. They have a really fiery coach. It's a really good program. It's a proud program. It's not going to be an easy game. I almost guarantee you we're gonna all be looking at the clock at Faurot in week 3, and you're looking forward to LSU Florida, and you're looking forward to what's the other game that night, Texas A&M Notre Dame, and you're gonna look over and you're gonna see Mizzou, and you're gonna be 17-13 in the third quarter. I don't like this. And Louisiana is going to have the ball or something. It's just going to be one of those games, and then Mizzou pulls away and wins 31-17 or 31-13. I'm not confident that they will rock UMass or Louisiana the way they did Buffalo and their crappy knockout last year. This might look closer to the Boston College game, except hopefully it's not just because of play breakdowns. That game is only close because Toriano Pride, Marvin Burks, man, sometimes, brother, sometimes. But Louisiana, it's a good program. it's a proud program. Like it's a program that's played a lot of good football, especially after Billy Napier got there. Mark Hudspeth, I believe, was the coach before. Like, let me look. Did I pull that name right? Mark Hudspeth. He's head football coach now at Gulf Shores. Oh man, did I just? They were horrible under Mark Hudspeth. I lied. So Billy Napier got there. He was 29 and 38 overall. Goodness gracious. So then Billy, I don't know why I remembered Mark Hudspeth. Wasn't that good. But then Billy Napier comes and they go on a run where they've just been, and then they take a step back. Anytime you lose a quarterback like Billy Napier, or you lose a coach like Billy Napier, you're going to take a step back. He's a great coach. See what he does at Florida this year. But, they went 7-7 and then 11-3, 10-1, 12-1, 40-12 overall. It's a proud program that's seen a lot of winning. And I'm not confident Mizzou's going to just rock them. Like, that's not a game Mizzou you can just kick the ball off and Mizzou's going to win by 25 points. That's not what this game is going to be. Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, they're going to be tough, and they're going to play some hard-nosed football, and it's a game that Mizzou's going to have to show up for, or the game's going to be in doubt in the fourth quarter, and that can't happen. It won't be good for confidence going into South Carolina. So I'm excited for this game. I actually think it's the trap game on Mizzou's schedule. No SEC game's a trap game except like Vandy or something, but Vandy's on the road this year, and Vandy made a bowl game last year, so how can you call that a trap game? Every SEC game is it's going to be tough except Mississippi State. Like, Mississippi State's not a trap game though. Like, you just can't lose that game. And as we talked about, this is a game Mizzou can't lose. There's must wins and can't loses. Mizzou has 5 can't loses this year. You cannot lose to Mississippi State. You cannot lose to Kansas. You cannot lose to Central Arkansas. You cannot lose to UMass, and you can't lose to Louisiana. You win all 5 of those games. Now you just have to go 3-4 the rest of the way, and you have a pretty successful season. So thank you guys for tuning in to Missouri Tigers Live. Do like and subscribe. I'm going to be here a lot. Next week, we're going to get into South Carolina. Like, it's time to start breaking down the SEC, guys. I'm super excited. South Carolina fans, if you're watching your team, you're going to be pretty good this year. There are some flaws, though, and they did steal a DM from Missouri, Jalen Brown. So you can follow me on Twitter at PsychoZ50 and hear all my ramblings about movies and college football and comic books and all the other nerd stuff I love. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is episode 30. Next week, we'll be back for episode 31. And you can, of course, follow Mark on Twitter. Subscribe, like all our channels, guys. The Voice of College Football is an amazing place. We have people all over the country that love this silly sport that brings us all together and tears us apart for goofy reasons. Like where it's going, don't like where it's going. So we will see you guys next week. Enjoy your 4th of July. Please be safe. Drink responsibly. If you don't drink responsibly, please get a ride home. Please be safe. Enjoy the weekend. And I will, if you like NHL and NBA free agency, enjoy that tomorrow. Baseball. And then we're just stuck with baseball until August 23rd. Oh, God. Anyway, you guys have a great night. Have a great 4th of July. MIZ, folks. SEC previews start next week.